Hi, families. This is Sheryl from Tutoring with Sheryl, and I'm hopping in today to talk to you a little bit about when your student has a reluctance to read and they're a second through fifth grader and you are trying to figure out what you can do at home. And so if this is the first time that you've met me, I am Sheryl Euling. I am the owner of Tutoring with Sheryl. I have been in education for 34 years, 32 as a classroom teacher, and now 2 as a private tutor. And I am here to go through some things that might be potential reasons as to why your child does not like to read, give you some ideas about what you can do to maybe remedy that situation, and then also give you ideas about how you can create an environment in your home that maybe encourages reading overall. And so that might mean that you're going to have to change some habits that you have at your own house. Don't worry, it won't be difficult. Okay, so you've got a second through sixth grader. They're not wanting to read. There could be 5 things that could be going on. There's plenty more, but these are just ideas. So the very first thing might be that your child is trying to read books that are not at their reading level. And I know that is one of those tricky things where people are like, what does that mean? So basically, that means that your child is maybe reading below grade level. And that is not something to get super stressed out about because there are things that can be done. But if every year you go back to parent-teacher conferences and the teacher is always telling you that your child is reading below grade level, that is a red flag that you have a problem and that your child needs an intervention. So that could be the very first struggle that your child is having. The second struggle could just be a lack of interest. Maybe the genre isn't right. Maybe your child actually really prefers nonfiction and you keep giving them fiction books and they just have absolutely no interest in reading those fiction books. And or perhaps it's the other way around. Maybe you keep trying to give them nonfiction books and they don't like it and they prefer fiction books, or maybe they're into fables or fairy tales or something like that. So there are some solutions here, and I will offer those up here in just a minute. There could be some environmental factors. If your family is tech heavy and they only see you on a digital device and they never see you with a book in print, a newspaper, a magazine. I know those aren't things that people necessarily have in their house maybe as often as what they used to. They're going to think that they should just be on technology, and technology is one of those traps where you can go down that spiral and then pretty soon you aren't doing what you're supposed to be doing at all. Okay. The last 2 I think are really important, and I think they go overlooked quite a bit. The fourth thing could be an uncorrected vision issue, and it might not just be the fact that your child needs prescription lenses, but it could be a tracking issue. And in both cases, a doctor needs to diagnose that, eye doctor, and then the eye doctor or the physical therapist can provide actual exercises for your child to do to improve the eye muscles, if it's a tracking issue, or if it is a vision correction issue, then I highly recommend wearing the glasses and just getting into the routine of wearing them all the time. And then it could be a learning disability. The 5th thing could be a learning disability. It could even be something like dyslexia. Now, if you go to the school and you say, I think my child has dyslexia, they're probably not going to, jump in and do an assessment right away, because a lot of times they'll be just like, well, that's a really common thing. We see it a lot in children. But if you say, I'm really concerned that my child has a learning disability, either, maybe you've got ADHD, they've got ADHD or visual processing disorder, or maybe it's a reading comprehension issue. And then you ask for the full battery of tests, and you can ask that. They might be a little bit more likely to actually do the testing than just saying, well, I think my child has dyslexia. So, that's just my personal experience. Definitely check with your school psychologist, because they are the person who's going to be running those tests. You'll have to go through the chain of command, start with the teacher, and then go forth from there. But that would definitely be something that I would definitely look into. So how are you going to address these steps? Like I gave you a little insight there to a couple of them. The very first thing is what I was saying before, if your child is reading below grade level and your teacher is telling you that, that is a clear sign that they are behind. Now, does that mean that they're behind intelligence wise? No, that's not the case. It's just that they're not at the level of the text that they're currently reading. And so there's going to need to be some sort of an intervention there. You can't just keep giving them more and more to read and expect them to be able to figure that out, because that's not the way it works. So they're going to need specific instruction based on wherever the gaps are in their learning to figure that out. And a trained professional can do that for you. So find somebody that you know, like, and trust, and have them do some sort of an evaluation to figure out what is it that's specifically holding my child back. And it could be they don't have a clear understanding of all the letters of the alphabet, the sounds, the vowel teams, all the phonics, everything that goes into that. Maybe their school is a whole language school or a sight word school, and so they're just not able to attack words that they don't know. But given specific instruction on how to do that, suddenly they're able to sound out words, and they build their vocabulary, and boom, there you are. Number 2 was that lack of interest, the topics or the genres. I would highly recommend going to a library frequently, or going to a bookstore and just allowing your child to just kind of wander and look at the different titles and the different types of books, because they're going to actually pick up the books, they're going to open them up, and they're going to look inside of them. And when they look inside of them, they're going to see pictures and words and titles, and they're going to start probably looking at the spine of the book and the cover of the book, and allow them to I used to call that like a book tasting. I give them several different types of books and say, all right, sit down now, tell me which one do you like and why do you like it. And then either you read it to them or they read it to you, or you read it together and you talk about the book. So definitely diving deep into different types of genres to find out what they actually like. Now, that does not mean that you leave the child in only that genre, because if you only leave them in that genre, they don't get a really big view of reading. But definitely find what they like and then encourage them to read that. Okay, and then we want to have a creative and supportive environment. And so going back to that home environment where technology might be a distraction, put your digital devices away. Everybody pull out a book, have a family book night. Maybe it's Tuesday nights after homework where everybody's or in supper. We're going to sit down and for 20 minutes, we're just going to read. Your child, maybe you're going to read to your child or with your child, but you're going to talk about those books, and it's going to become a priority in your house. It's really easy. Even when my granddaughter comes over, I'm looking at my phone, I'm reading. She doesn't know that. She thinks I'm on my phone. She associates that with playing a game. So she's not associating the phone or looking at pictures or video. She's not associating the phone with talking to somebody else or doing the things I just mentioned. Or there's no reading involved to her, because for her, the reading comes in the form of a book. And so we want to model that behavior. So we might have to change our home environment just a little bit. Okay. And that could, I've got some suggestions and things that you could do at your house, and I'll share those in just a little bit. That would definitely help your child appreciate, maybe not like, but understand the value of a good book. Okay, so I'm getting a little lost in my numbers, but I'm thinking I'm on the vision correction issue. And again, that has to be a scheduled appointment. The schools will always do an eye check, but that does not always show up that your child has a reading problem. Okay, so maybe they can do the vision check where it's far away, because they're going to stand, back, 6, 8, 10 feet, whatever, and read the chart. Okay, that's great for distance, but they don't check up close necessarily. So I would definitely take your child in once a year for a quick eye exam, and make sure that there's not either a need for glasses, or there's not a tracking problem of some sort where they've got a visual processing disorder, because those things can be remedied and worked on. Okay, and then we had going a little bit deeper as far as a learning disability or dyslexia or something like that. Again, you need to find a qualified educator or a school psychologist to run a test to see where that problem actually could be. And things that tutors will typically do is they might do some sort of a quick check on, like, can your child read this word list? And I know that I use the San Diego Quick as my screener right away, just to see kind of level wise, where's your child at in relationship to the grade level that they're in. And if they're not reading at their grade level, then I dive a little bit deeper into what is the problem. So I go through a series of things where I have the child do some reading or some spelling or some writing or something to try to diagnose, is it a phonics issue? Is it a lack of vocabulary? Is it the fact that they don't have the background? Is it more of a dyslexic issue with the font being, too close, or the letters aren't spaced out, or they're seeing letter reversals, or, things like that. And so then I can figure out how to move forward with that child. And so definitely find somebody who has the qualifications and the experiences to dive a little bit deeper and figure out where the actual problem is. All right. So that was what could be holding your child back. Now, what can you do? Okay, so you can take those steps, but there's some things that you can do at home to foster a lifelong love of learning. And I did a Facebook Live about this morning. And one of the things that I said was, when you teach a child, I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to use the example of math. Okay, we want to have all our children love math, right? Wouldn't that be great? I still don't love math. I can do math. I'm proficient to do what I need to do, but I can't do calculus. And I really have no interest in geometry. And, those are not my thing, but I know enough to get by in life. Okay, does that mean that I love math? No, but I love playing games that have logic and trying to figure things out. So we might not love math, but we can learn how to do it and have the parts in our life that are going to help us be successful. So when I say foster a lifelong love of reading, your child could be experiencing the same thing that I experience when I say a love of math. The love of reading might not ever happen for your child, and we need to be okay with that. But we do want to have literate children, and so we need to set up an environment where they're going to be okay to take the risk to read. And that comes with a lot of patience on your part. It comes with a lot of fostering this environment of acceptance, and it's okay if you don't read it right. We're going to go back. We're going to try it again, and helping your child get that background and learn those vocabulary words. And I'm sorry, families, but it's not going to cut it if you're only going to the grocery store or going to Target or Walmart or whatever, and you're never taking a vacation. I know vacations are expensive, but you can do a staycation in your own city or in your own area and try to get out of your 1 or 2 mile radius of where you're at. It's really easy for us just to go to work and then come home and cook dinner and talk to our kids and read them a book and put them to bed. But that is not going to build their background knowledge on anything. They're not going to have any kind of other experiences to draw upon when they're reading books. Now, we can read the books so that they get those experiences, but we have to do our part. So really think outside of the box. What can I do to build this background knowledge for my child so that they have experiences, so that when they're reading, they understand the text? That is really important. Okay, so I'm going to go through 10 things that you can do at home that will help your child hopefully foster a like, if not a love of reading. Again, I want you to create a reading-friendly zone in your house. Many of you live in small homes. That could be a difficult thing to do, but find a corner in your house where you can set a fun little lamp up and do a basket of books or something. Better yet, do a shelf of books. And you don't have to buy the books. You can pick them up for free. People can donate them to you, or you can just borrow them and return them. But really think about, what can I do to encourage reading? And I'm talking print books. I know it's great. I use Epic Reading with my students because I teach digitally, and that's the easiest way to present a book. And I think it's great, and I know teachers use it, and that is a wonderful tool. But If we really want our children to understand how to use a book, we need to provide them with books. And I mean, there's all kinds of books in the world that they're going to need to use. So do not discount that paper books are really important. So create that cozy reading space, make it inviting, and then get it free of distractions. That is not the place for their Kindle, their iPad, their gaming things. The TV should not be in the same space. It needs to be distraction free. And if the TV is in that space, it's got to be turned off. Turn those digital devices off. And during that reading time, it's just reading time. Okay. And I think you're going to find a big difference in the fact that your child's going to maybe accept the book because that's the space. Okay. Number 2, choose the right books. We were talking about the genre. So if your child is really into World War II books, and they love history, because I've had students just totally into that, they might want to just read nonfiction books about World War II, the tanks, the airplanes, the wars that happened, or I'm sorry, not the wars, the battles that happened during that war. But then think outside of the box. Are there picture books about it? Are there chapter books about it? Are there graphic novels about it? And then find those and stick them into the basket in that area so that they become exposed to the different types of reading, because the different types of reading use different vocabulary words. They're also written in a different style, and that's going to help our children not only be able to read the different styles, but also be able to write in the different styles. So it's this whole literacy circle that we need to be thinking about. It's not just the actual act of reading and understanding the text. Okay, we want to make reading fun. And that is pretty tricky, especially when you've got a struggling reader. But one of the things I do in my practice with my students is I will find dramas or little plays that we can do. There might be several characters, but then I highlight, do you want to read the yellow part or the non-yellow part? And when you see these characters, try to act like the character as you're reading the story. And it definitely will make it a lot more fun. But you can do other things. You can do arts and crafts surrounding the stories that you're reading. They can draw pictures. Really cool thing to do is to use have them type up a summary and then have them do a Google drawing to go along with that. I do that in my own practice. And so I think it's really important that you do that. Play a reading skills game with them. If you've got a board game, they sell them all over the place. You can go to a store like Lakeshore Learning or a bookstore and go to the children's department and find the little word games. Find little games that where they have to read a little synopsis of a story, and then they have to say who is the main character, what is the setting of the story. And then you can even do that with your own stories. You can create your own question cards that go along with the story. And when you're all done, then you guys can, before you do your next move in the trouble game that you're playing, or the whatever game board you're playing, you have to answer this question before you take the next turn. And that makes it really, really great. Another thing that you can do is do a reading scavenger hunt. You can say, where at in the book would I find? And then before they get the next one, they can't move on until they find that answer. And then at the end, maybe they get a bookmark or a star or something like that. But let's move on to number 4. You can be a reading role model. And that was where I was telling you to put your digital devices down and pick up a paper book, sit with a child and read to them. Make that time a family reading time. It's really important. Number 5, use technology wisely. There are a lot of recommendations on the number of minutes that a child should be using technology during the day. And since I don't know how old your child is and who you are and your own circumstances, I'm going to leave that up to you to do a little bit of your own research on that. But make sure that your child is not doing too much technology during the day. And remember that they're probably using technology at school too. So limit that tech time and really think about ways that if you're going to use the technology, what is the purpose behind it, and how long are you going to have them on that piece of technology? Number 6, visit libraries and bookstores. If you watched my video of this discussion on Facebook, I gave the example of my daughter and her friends going with us on a vacation, and we went down to Kansas City and we had a little bit of time to spare. So I said, let's go into Barnes and Noble. And my daughter and her 2 or 3 friends that went with us, never been into Barnes and Noble ever before. And the look on their face when they walked in and saw the walls of books and everything that were around, I was like, oh my gosh, I've totally failed my own child. I've taken her to libraries. Why didn't I ever take her to Barnes and Noble? Well, probably because I live so far away from a Barnes and Noble. But the point simply is that we want to take them to places where they can find books. And just that look of amazement and wow, all those books in one spot, because especially if your child goes to a smaller school, the library is small, or that's not a place where they feel comfortable at school, let's take them someplace and make them see that it can be a comfortable place and it doesn't have to be a place of stress and distress, because reading's not fun, right? Because there's more than just books in a library. All right, number 7, encourage discussion. If they're reading a book or you're reading the book with them, don't just read the book and then close the book. Talk about the book. Who was the main character? What was happening in the story? What do you think will happen next? Have those discussions. Have you read another book like this? Have we read another book like this? Is there another character that you can think of that acts the same way? And then they start to see the correlations between the different books. And then that might even go into, do you know somebody that acts like this? Have we visited a place like this? And then it becomes real. It becomes real life experiences through books. Set goals. Number 8, set goals and reward them. Okay. So it could be a reading challenge. Maybe your family's going to have a reading challenge for the summer. We're going to read 50 books this summer. And that'll be our whole family going to work towards that. What does that look like for your family? Is it picture books? Is it novels? Is it parts of books? And then celebrate the success. Okay, we're having ice cream sundaes tonight because we did it. I'll bring home the supplies from the grocery store. What a great way to celebrate it. Or we're going to have a bowl of popcorn tonight, or we're going to go for a walk, or we're going to invite a friend over and we're going to talk about the books. Have a reward. Celebrate that. And actually, you don't have to spend any money on it at all. You guys can just make a big sign on your window and put it on your window and say, we read 50 books this year. Yay. And then everybody's like, wow, they read 50 books this year. Celebrate that. Okay, number 9, integrate reading into your daily activities. So you want to have a daily routine. Now that gets a little bit tricky, especially for parents who are working really long hours, because what if you're doing at work? Well, depending on your job, you might be doing a lot of reading or a lot of talking or no reading or talking, but your job is very labor intensive. And the last thing you want to do is come home and read a book. But really think about that. If you want to set an example for your child, maybe it's, I'm going to read a book to you, and then I'm going to go in my room and read for 15 minutes in the book that I checked out from the library from our visit this week. Do it. You might find that might be the most special part of your day because your brain is just kind of slowing down. And I think that's really important. But besides putting that part into your daily routine, what about just the actual functionality of reading throughout the day? If your children are with you, have them read the signs. You're going down the interstate. You're like, okay, we need this highway. Where am I at? They have to read the sign on the billboards, or they're reading the map, or you're doing a recipe and they're reading the recipe, or there's directions for a game, or you're putting, in my case, just this week where we're trying to put some furniture together. And so you're reading the directions. Sometimes directions are picture directions. I'm terrible at picture directions. My husband does amazing at that, but that's a stretch for me. That is another type of reading. So we need to be able to do that. And then the very last thing that I want you to do to create that environment in your home is to be positive and to be patient, because for some kids, it's just really a battle to read. And don't give up on your child. If it's really hard and you cannot help them, find a qualified instructor to do it. There are people trained like myself all over the world who have taught hundreds, thousands of children how to read, and we know the process. And people aren't born knowing how to read. We go to college to learn how to do this. And sometimes colleges don't even teach us. And so then we have to go on and we get additional training so that we can actually do this. And I know in my practice, I've taken non-readers who have really been very far behind. I mean, 3-4 years behind. And over the course of a year or two, they are at level and beyond. And you're like, wait a minute. over a year or two, well, they're only meeting with me, once or twice a week. So I think we bridge the gap very quickly in that amount of time. But I have had families also who have been like, no, I want this to go faster. So then they just sign up for more time with me and it goes a lot faster. But also remember that reading itself isn't the only answer. You have to be incorporating tactile things that the kids are moving and or writing and doing. And so it can't just be, I'm going to teach you the letter sounds and you're going to read. You want to be writing about it and drawing about it and talking about it. And yeah, there's a lot to it. So anyway, I'm going to end the conversation with that. If you'd like more information about Tutoring with Sheryl, you can find me at tutoringwithsheryl.tutorbird.com. And if you have any questions about my services, you can reach me here. And as usual, you guys make it a great day and keep the learning going.